Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, more questions from you lovely people out there. It's Ask CriminOlly. So as usual, I have questions from 4 viewers here, which I'm going to go through. And as always, if you'd like to ask your own question, then either ask them in the comments with Ask CriminOlly at the start, or send me an email at criminolly@gmail.com. I am trying to get through all the questions I've had, but I'm having new questions asked all the time. So if your question hasn't been answered yet, do be patient. I will get to it eventually, I promise. Okay, so today's first question is from Dave Brzeski. And the question is, how does one watch booktube videos that promote lots of other booktubers, new or otherwise, without falling further and further and further behind? And that's a very good question, because certainly the number of accounts, the number of booktube accounts I follow just grows and grows and grows. And I think for me, and this is only what I tend to do. So my, if you like, ritual or habit for watching booktube is in the morning. When I get up, I scan through my subscription feeds, and anything that takes my fancy I add to my watch later. And then while I'm exercising in the morning, I usually watch some booktube videos then, and then later on in the day, like when I'm making my lunch or something like that, I will do the same thing again. I will scroll to see what's new, add new stuff to my watch later, and gradually through the day watch things. Now what that does mean is that I quite often don't get to everything that day that I've added to my watch later, but it also means I've got a backlog of stuff I can watch if there's a day when not much goes up that interests me. In terms of new people that I follow, what I try and do when I follow somebody, and I do quite often follow people if they're mentioned in other videos, and I check out their account, and if it looks interesting, I follow them. I try and watch at least one video by them soon after following them, to get a feel for their style and their content and whether I like them or not. And then if I do, I will just naturally watch more videos of them. And the people that I've followed, where I don't regularly watch videos by them, I do try and watch one every so often just to see kind of what they're up to and check in with them really. So it is very difficult to balance. It's very difficult to balance against reading as well, and it's also very difficult if you've got a channel of your own to balance those 3 things. So watching booktube, making content, and reading. It's a difficult balance to get right, and most of the time I feel like I get it right. I probably spend more time of all of those 3 things. I spend the most time reading. And I'm pretty comfortable with that. I'd like to get more efficient at making my videos so I can spend more time watching other people's videos. And I think that comes with time. So I've found that over time I am getting better at doing one-take videos, which then means the editing process is much quicker. So overall it takes less time. I hope that answers your question, Dave. I think I've answered a bunch of other questions in there as well, but I think I did answer your question. Okay, so next question is from Juan at Played by Visions, the legendary Juan. What is a typical bookish object or activity that you see all your reader friends engage, but that you personally can't stand? Do you secretly hate bookmarks, TBR carts, rainbow shelves? I need to know. So I was trying to think of one. So the 3 things you list, so TBR carts, I really like the idea of a TBR cart, so much so that I've actually ordered one. And I haven't addressed the fact, so I'll address it now. So I've been saying for weeks that I'm getting new bookshelves. The delivery people came with the new bookshelves on Friday and couldn't get them up the stairs. They were too heavy. So sadly, the bookshelves I spent ages finding and choosing have had to go back, and I'm waiting for a refund. And have picked out some much lighter and cheaper shelves from IKEA, which will be coming in a week or so. So those will go up soon. But I've also at the same time have ordered a TBR cart from IKEA because I think they're really cute, and I like the idea of having a simple place where I can put everything that I'm going to be reading, in the month ahead. In the past, I used to have a cardboard box kind of over there, and when my office got tidied up for being decorated, I migrated to using a big bag for life. So that's what I have been using. this month, and it's over there, you can't see it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a TBR cart and having a bit more structure to everything, as well as having some shelves again. So TBR carts I like. Bookmarks I really like as well. I always use bookmark. Obviously I produce bookmarks for Garb August, and I still have some left actually, so if anybody wants a Garb August bookmark, let me know in the comments and I'll get in touch with you. Rainbow shelves I cannot get behind at all. So I get that they look nice, but for me, any way of filing books that makes it more difficult to find the book you want seems completely illogical. Now, that said, anyone who can remember the piles of books that I used to have behind me may question how well I file my books, and it did get completely out of control. When I get my new shelves, I will be filing books in a sensible manner, and I won't be having rainbow shelves. So yeah, aside from that, I guess things like, other things I kind of don't get are things like book covers. Just feels like it would take longer than it needs to get to the book. I mean, they look quite cute, but it seems to me that it gets in the way of reading. And then when you've taken the book out of it, you need to put the cover somewhere in order to read. So yeah, I don't really get book covers. And I don't really get I don't really get bookish merchandise type stuff, if I'm honest. So, things like Funko Pops and that kind of thing. I kind of get the appeal, but equally it just feels to me like they take up a lot of room, and I haven't got a lot of room. So hopefully that's answered your question one. So yeah, of the ones you mentioned, definitely rainbow shelves, I just don't get at all. Okay, next question is from Fulci, a wonderfully named account. I'm not sure if that is actually your name or if you have just named yourself after the legendary Italian horror director. Hopefully it's the second. I'm assuming it's the second, but I might be wrong. Okay, so the question is, do you enjoy graphic novels or comics? If so, what are some of your favourites? So I have a long history of reading graphic novels and comics. So I was a huge comic fan in my teens and into my early 20s, but particularly in my teens. So I used to read a lot of kind of Marvel comics back then, so particularly X-Men. And I was never someone who was tied to a particular company or anything like that. So I probably, of the big American stuff, it was mostly, I guess, Marvel that I read, and particularly like the X-Men series and Daredevil and the Punisher. But I also read a fair bit of Batman back then, and I really liked Swamp Thing and Hellblazer and Sandman, so the kind of spin-offs. And then also read a fair amount of kind of indie comics. I used to really like Love and Rockets and Dan Clowes's comics I really liked as well. And then that was around the time that kind of manga started breaking out in the West as well. So I really liked Akira and Lone Wolf and Cub back then. And then also the kind of big graphic novels like Watchmen I thought was absolutely fantastic. The Killing Joke I really liked. I was always a big reader of 2000 AD, the British sci-fi comic, so I really liked seeing what some of the writers from that, like Alan Moore and Pat Mills and people like that, did when they went over to the States. But in terms of more recent stuff, I haven't read a lot, and I do sometimes feel like I need to get back into it. I read a fair bit of The Walking Dead, but I certainly haven't read all of it. But the kind of, the current generation of comics, I haven't read at all. And I'm keen to pick some up, so happy for any recommendations. The thing that always occurs to me with comics is, and it seems to me like when I was reading them as a teenager, it didn't feel like they were really expensive compared to books. And I'm not sure if they weren't really expensive compared to books back then or not, but it feels to me like in terms of the amount of entertainment I get from a comic versus a book, it feels like the value to money is definitely more weighted towards books. So a book will keep me entertained for longer than spending the same amount of money on comics will, because comics you just whiz through, don't you? I'm really keen for anyone to recommend in the comments comics they think I might like. I'll definitely give some a go. I would like to get back into reading comics again. It's been a long time since I've read them regularly. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments about comics you think I might like. Okay, final set of questions, with 2 questions, comes from, and I hope I'm going to pronounce your name correctly, Caleb Bouchard. So your videos and thoughts on Richard Laymon have been a great guidance on me as I just recently started exploring his massive oeuvre. I have 2 questions I'd like to pick your brain on. One, any thoughts on why Laymon experienced more success in the UK compared to the US? I don't know the answer to that, but I do think it's true that he also experienced quite a lot of success in Europe generally, so not just the UK. But I remember in my teens his stuff being really, really prevalent on like bookshop shelves and like in newsagents, which is where I think I probably first discovered him. You often saw his books on the kind of spinner racks they'd have in there. I don't know. I don't know if it was just that a publisher over here decided that his stuff would sell and really pushed it, or if there's something else behind it. It feels to me like there are a lot of writers who were big at that time in the States of a similar type to Laymon. So people like Edward Lee, Brian Keane, Jack Ketchum, who never really made it over here. And I don't know if it was just they didn't get picked up by publishers over here and Laymon did. And he managed to pretty much single-handedly fill that gap in the market for kind of trashy American horror. But yeah, a lot of those other authors who were published by like Zebra Books and Leisure Books and people like that in the States, you just couldn't get over here. But Laymon you always could. So maybe it was just that his books were available over here and there was less competition. But yeah, he was certainly quite popular in the UK back in the day. And then the second question is, would you mind giving us a top 3 of your personal favourite Laymon novels? So I think my favourite Laymon novel is Savage, which is his kind of take on Jack the Ripper, which is just a really fun book. I mean, it suffers from a lot of the problems that Laymon books do suffer from, but I think it's really good. So basically it follows this young guy who starts off in London, who witnesses one of Jack the Ripper's crimes, and then Jack the Ripper flees on a boat to the Old West, and this young guy does as well, and it then becomes kind of a coming of age western, with the 2 of them kind of chasing each other across the West. It's just really good fun, very different from the vast majority of Laymon's other books. The other one I really like is The Cellar, which I reread recently, which I just think it's short, it's got all the sex and violence that you look for in a Richard Laymon novel, but he doesn't he doesn't pad it out too much, and it's just got that fantastic what the fuck ending that it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder, that book, and I just think it's a really good example of what Laymon does well. There's a lot he doesn't do well, but I think The Cellar is a great example of what he does do well. And then I was trying to think about other ones, because a lot of the books I've reread by him recently, I haven't enjoyed so much. I seem to remember really enjoying Quake when that came out, which is about like an earthquake striking somewhere in California, may well be Los Angeles, and the character who's a young man trying to get to safety and meeting various people along the way. I seem to remember really enjoying that one, but I haven't reread it. I think I've got a copy of it somewhere, so I'll need to give that one another read at some point. So as always, I hope you found that useful. As I said at the start, feel free to ask your own questions if you'd like to. If you've got answers for any of the questions that were asked today, particularly probably the comic book one and Caleb's question about Richard Laymon recommendations, then do leave them in the comments. Look forward to seeing what you think about those things. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you're safe and well. Hope you're really good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.